Hi, I just wanted to go over today how to inject power correctly across a longer run of LED strips. There can come some times where you may want to, maybe you've got a really long run, maybe you've got 6 meters out this way and 6 meters out this way and you've powered it from both ends, but you might want to add a little bit of a booster power here in the middle. And there's a few ways you can go about doing this. One of the ways is to use connectors. So you could put connectors on, but what I find when you put the connectors on here is that you're not going to keep this even gap between the LEDs. So the way I prefer to do it is to inject power along the way just by soldering a few extra leads across the pads that are there. What you want to be careful is that you obviously get them around the right way, but that you don't connect the positive to the data input or output, or the ground to the data input or output. If you connect the positive to the data input or output, it is going to fry this pixel, and this pixel will need to be replaced. It shouldn't go any further than that, but yeah, from my experience, if you do wire the 12 volt to the data, then you will fry the next pixel along. If you wire the ground to the data, everything before this point is going to work. Everything after this point is no longer going to work. So the way I like to do this is much like I do anything. I use a little bit of flux. Get a little bit of flux on my wire. I highly recommend using this if you are going to be doing a lot of soldering. It just really takes the oxygen out and makes the solder really stick to things quite well. So I put a little bit of flux onto both of my wires, and then I'm just going to tin both of these wires. So I'll get my soldering iron. To tin things, I generally put a little bit of solder onto the end of my tip, and then with that little bit of solder, just heat up the end of the wire and just wipe it along. Same with this one. Heat up a bit of the wire and wipe it along. Then you end up with two beautiful looking tinned tipped wires. Now the next thing I'll do is I put a little bit of solder on the LED strip. I've got a little bit of flux on my bench here. Try not to get it everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit to the ground pad. Now what we do with that is we heat up the pad and then we put the solder onto it once it's heated up. Should only take a second if you've got a nice hot soldering iron. This one is a digital one. I've got it set to 330 degrees. That may or may not be correct, but I've found it's really good. You don't want to heat things up too much because you have got some quite sensitive components across here. And these components are just soldered on. So having your soldering iron too close to these will heat them up, and they may fall off, or they may end up with a bad connection. The next thing I do is we're going to start with the positive one, the one that's further away from me. Now what I do is I get this here and I just set it straight across what we've just soldered. So that little solder ball there. And then you shouldn't have to put the soldering iron on it very long. What you want to do is just touch down, and then you'll see that you get a nice finish on that. The reason I go along this way is that it keeps the wires out of the way, keeps everything still connected and working properly. And then you can maybe feed these out some other holes somewhere else, or however you want to do it. Really up to you. You can come off this way. I just find that in smaller extrusions it takes up a little bit too much room when you do that. So what I'll do is just set this here. And as always, I messed it up. Always happens in videos. I can sit down and do these for hours and have no issues. As soon as I go to take a video, I make a mistake. So there we are. That is now attached to there. Those aren't going to fall off. They are stuck on there really well. If you've got these little sticky uppy bits, if you want to clean that up a little bit, you can get some really nice pointy pliers here and just take off a little bit of that extra solder if you wanted to. But you can see that they are really far away from that data line, so you're not going to have any issues with things interfering with that. Now what I would generally do is stick this up into the extrusion and have a hole located nearby that these cables can run up out to and connect into the driver. Keeping in mind that when using this pixel strip, two things you need to remember, I'm just going to put this on the video here, is that these arrows, that's the direction in which the data has to go. If you get these arrows around the wrong way, it's not going to work. So data in is always at the start of the pixel, and then data out is always at the end of the pixel. The other thing is that they all need to be run off the same driver. So the big thing is having all the grounds connected together. If you are going to use multiple drivers, but the single data line, all of the grounds on those drivers need to be connected together. But that covers off injecting power partway along a strip. If you have any problems, feel free to get in touch. Thanks.